Thank you, Amy and Kirsten. That was a really informative talk, and we've had some really lovely comments in the chat, which I just wanted to highlight. We've got a comment from Claudia. Really good tips for doing research in terms of phrasing questions and how to make it inclusive by ensuring they know that they don't need to participate. So, like, turning your camera off is fine because you've built that trust. We also have a comment from Julie. I love how these learnings and principles feel quite universal to everyone, not just for neurodivergent people. If we can better accommodate those experiencing challenges in certain situations, we are really creating environments that are better for everyone. Comment from Andy. I unfortunately have to drop off. Oh, sorry, Andy. But I want to say how amazing this work is. Thank you for doing this and sharing this with us. Um, and so yeah, I even for me as myself was listening to this talk, I was reflecting on um, how you've kind of managed to demedicalize this topic and really speak to the complex experiences that we all can experience, whether we're neurodivergent or not, and acknowledging people for being different, and that's okay. And it's just about being as accommodating as you can to what everyone's thinking and feeling patterns are like. Really found it interesting as well, the use of language, I forgot the term you used, but condition first. So like that's quite different to what some organisations have taken a view on. And as well that the kind of you don't look X, Y, Z, just seeing that kind of model of externalized versus internalized characteristics really interesting, and it was nice not to get the DSM-5 out and start matching ourselves to that. So yeah, that was one of my reflections too. We have some questions, so I'll just go in order of how they were presented. And Amy, you picked up on this one. Are there ways to determine if one is neurodivergent or neurotypical? I imagine many may not even be aware, myself included. Uh, Definitely resonate with this question. What do you guys think?
I can pick it up really quickly just from my own experience, and then Kirsten is going to have probably a much more informed answer than me. But I guess because of the term neurodiversity, we're on a scale. There's some things that we may struggle with, even if you're deemed neurotypical. So you may have an aversion to sound, even if you're deemed neurotypical. But as we mentioned with the spiky profile, you're much more likely to have this difference between things you find easy and things that you find difficult. And perhaps you could be neurodivergent and not realize it if you've got the most amazing scaffolding in place. That means that you had a lot of support as a child, your education was okay, or your education was a hyper focus. So that was like me. And from my own personal experience, I always thought that I was a highly sensitive person. So I thought that for years, oh, I've read this and that's me. So I knew I had lots of little things that I thought were just personality. And actually, I discovered about myself through my child. And what I realized through that experience is I have experienced extreme anxiety through my life, but I always thought, oh, I'm just not good enough. I can't quite keep up enough. So it's that kind of perfectionist mindset. And perhaps if we lived in a world which was completely adaptive to everyone and everyone's strengths and weaknesses, there wouldn't need to be such a classification of neurotypical and neurodiverse, but that's not the world we live in. So I guess my long-winded answer is maybe it doesn't matter if you're neurotypical or neurodiverse if you are thriving in your life. But if you're not, it's really important to understand your differences. And I'm going to hand over to Kirsten to talk about this.
Yes, I'm quite unusual in that I had not a formal diagnosis, but what I call a kind of pre-diagnosis. So I spoke with basically what was the only specialist centre for women with autism like 25 years ago, which is, it was unusual for kind of autism to be sort of picked up in women at that time, but I'd always felt different basically. And I think it's often those feelings of difference that is what young people kind of come to us with. Many do have super supportive families and love a whole load of things in life, but there are still just some things where they just feel there's a difference. Again, they're trying to do things that their peers are just finding seemingly so simple, and they just don't get why they can't. So yeah, I think we're all hoping for a world in the future where there's much more understanding of this. And I think there's some comments as well in some of the other questions kind of saying a lot of these principles are very much things that everyone would benefit from. And it's true that pretty much all the advice on how you can support neurodivergent young people in the classroom, for instance, are through ways that will actually benefit every single student. So, but yeah, I think it's definitely really important for the young people who come to our sessions to have this safe space where they can say things like, oh, I did this thing, which they've probably been sitting there thinking, I did this thing, it was really stupid, why did I do it, or why couldn't I get something right? And to be able to say that and then have a whole load of their peers go, yeah, me too. And it just breaks down those barriers, that stigma of feeling like you can't talk about these things, or you have to kind of match this sort of certain norm. So yeah, lots of challenges around social constructs, medical models, acceptance society.
I think what was really amazing was about, what you're talking about is really the essence of inclusive design. It's like, you can have that safe space for people who are from marginalized communities to come together and talk about their experiences and create solutions together, but they can have wider benefit for others who, may in some ways kind of identify with some of those characteristics. We just have another comment. Oh, I thought we did, but it disappeared. Excuse me. So we have another question, just about the designs that you've been working on. Are the sessions free to families?
So we started off being completely free to families, and then we do offer free spots to families on benefits. We then just try and keep the sessions as affordable as possible. So we are not a charity, we are a business, and it was actually a really deliberate decision to do this because at the end of the day, we do just want to be treated like everyone else. And we are applying for some funding to also do pilots through schools, because we do believe that also these things should be free at point of use. But also some families just want to be able to kind of choose to reach out and access a service at a time that suits them. Hence why a lot of our focus was on things like what times suit people, which may sound kind of counterintuitive. But if as a parent you've been kind of searching around trying to find this thing that supports your child, but you're told that it happens every 4 months on a Wednesday at sort of 4:43 and you work and you can't support your child with that, then that's part of the inflexibility that then excludes people. So so we're working to kind of make sure that it's accessible in different ways for different people from different socioeconomic backgrounds.
Amy, did you want to come on in that at all, or?
No, that describes.
Did the job.
So yeah, during that service pilot period, and I think this might answer some of these questions about the process as well. We had quite a specific sort of service pilot point, and everything was free because it was part of a funded experience. Yeah.
Excellent. I found the comment that disappeared. It's from Claire. So thank you both. I love the definitions and explanations at the start, especially on being high functioning versus being good at making. It's something I've found tricky to explain to people, as I often look like I'm doing fine, but I've just had 40 years of masking my struggles. This is even harder for young people faced with so many new experiences. I remember having similar struggles in my youth. Big hearts, Claire, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, masking, sorry. Yeah, masking.
Yeah.
Masking, not making. No, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, very relatable experience. And we've got more questions about some of the things that you guys were talking about. So, someone anonymous, do you think that having this experience virtually is key to making the sessions inclusive? Or do you think that it could be adapted to in-person? We often talk about what is lost with Zoom, but perhaps it's also good to think about what we gain.
I'm very happy to start on this one, and then Amy, yeah, you reflect. So again, because there's a huge lottery at the moment in terms of the services that people get, one of our kind of founding tenets of designing the service was making it accessible, and that was through putting it on Zoom. And then doing so just had such amazingly positive consequences, because actually being able to interact anonymously, being able to, we'd have kids who kind of attend sessions dressed as a unicorn, lying on the back on the floor with the headphones on, and with cameras off. And that's only really possible in those sorts of situations. We'd have people who drew for the entire session, we had people who danced for entire sessions. And those are the kind of things that help them regulate, help them concentrate, help them feel comfortable, help them feel like they're kind of safe and can say the things that they're going to talk about, and then go on to feel really positive because they've finally said something that's been really upsetting or worrying them, and they say it and it's okay, and they feel good and they're safe. And the other thing, which I think Amy touched on, which maybe you can pick up a bit more, Amy, is often what would happen is parents would be listening in the background, or sometimes you'd have the microphones off and parents would actually be having discussions with their kids about stuff that was being talked about. So another kid would say something and the parent might say, oh, do you feel that? Or a kid would say, oh yeah, I feel like that. And it would, set off a set of discussions. So giving that space, which I think would be difficult to create in person, because often other young people won't necessarily want to speak in front of other people's parents. Yeah, Amy, any other thoughts on the kind of the upside of virtual?
Yeah, I think from the families we spoke to, there were young people who were attending things face to face. So they kind of had that need met slightly in their lives. So maybe going to drama club or music club. I think we weren't sure about how it was going to work virtually, but actually the advantages were huge. Because I guess, like, I know from personal experience, if I'm feeling very tired, overwhelmed, I've been in meetings all day, that it's a barrier to think that I have to leave the house. And you are you've set up your environment exactly how you want it in your house as well. I also know from a friend who's facilitating drama clubs at the moment that there's actually a lot of complexity in it, because people have sensory differences. So maybe if someone wants to be really loud and actually somebody wants to be really quiet and they're in the same physical space, that can be really, really challenging. And then some people withdraw. So actually it had loads of benefits. And I think something else that was interesting is that sometimes parents were a bit cautious about their children unmasking. So maybe one child was using emojis lots. And we were like, no, this is great. This is perfect. And we could manage it. If someone's being really loud, we could say, we will mute if it gets a bit loud. So we were able to manage situations. So actually, I think, yeah, as Kirsten said, it actually made it a lot more accessible than we had expected.
Yeah, we also, and I sort of kicked myself that it took me so long to kind of work it out, but we had a couple of kids kind of getting a little bit irritated by other kids until we started also teaching them about how they could change the views that they use, and how they could effectively turn other people off so they didn't see them and stuff, because they'd be like, so and so is in my eyesight, they keep on moving, they've put an avatar on and I just can't concentrate, and they're getting really, really stressed and anxious. And we're like, okay, go to your presenter view, change it. But all of these things, all of these adaptations are possible, like with virtual, and yeah, enable all these really different kids to interact and enjoy it.
Yeah. No, it's really cool to reflect on kind of how you can customize the digital experience in these meetings, but also like you're saying, like you have your own individual setup, you have your own things that you do to make yourself feel more comfortable, and it doesn't have to involve other people if you don't want it to, and vice versa. So yeah, we've got so many more questions, which is great. Shall I leave it to you, Amy and Kirsten, to pick one perhaps that you really want to answer live, and then we can pop the rest on Slack, perhaps?
Yeah, really happy to. I'm just having a little quick read through. So we've got one about peer support for adults. We've got another one around reflections on lived experience in design and research. I'll maybe take the lived experience one in design and research. I'm happy to
I was
reflect.
going to
Yeah,
say that
brilliant.
as well.
You can say that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. And I'll also touch on the questions there about this project. So one of the benefits that we've got out in common is that because we are a company, this isn't just a project. The success of us designing inclusively means that we are successful, which means we can offer more services to more people, which means we can expand. So basically, the better we are at designing good things that are more inclusive, the more we're able to do and the longer this goes on. So we've been going year and a half now, and yep, plan to just keep on going. The stuff that we're talking about today was specific design sprint of about 6 months, wasn't it, Amy? I think we talked through. Yeah. On the point of lived experiences and in design and research, we have had sort of kind of neurotypical team members join our design team. We also have a great amount of diversity within our design team. So at some point I've said, like, there are some things, some characteristics that I share much more with Amy as an ADHDer than some of my autistic colleagues, because actually there's a whole range of different characteristics. So there's diversity within diversity, which is important. And then I think one of the interesting things of also having neurotypical colleagues was going through this kind of learning curve with them about what these differences are and how to express and experience them. So I'd say we definitely benefited from having a really diverse team when it came to supporting this, because it just meant that you kind of constantly challenge those assumptions. Because if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. And same for ADHDers. But I'm happy to come back to that. Amy, do you want to maybe take it from your perspective?
Yeah, I was just going to say that because I've been in like service design, so you know, purist UX research, I think it can be problematic in that we think that we can approach things completely in an unbiased way, and then we will receive people's stories and we will interpret them magically. And I think we bring bias to everything we do, and we can't get away from that. And I actually think from having lived experience, you know the right questions to ask, but it is also really important to keep ourselves honest. And that's why we have a big team. And that's why we collect our feedback in a standardized way. So we used we did an intervention analysis. So we captured all our feedback to see that there were patterns. We didn't just go, oh yes, this is working. So we collected a lot of qualitative data, and we analyzed it to see if change was happening. Where we could see stuff wasn't working, we captured that and we iterated it. So all the normal processes that you would do in a human-led design project. But I think the benefit of having lived experiences, we weren't applying what we thought the meaning was. We actually understand that in a much more nuanced way, and we understand the right questions to ask in the first place, and why people might be impacted by things as well.
No, definitely important, and something that we all have to recognize, to not kind of put our experience on other people, and like you say, find a way to kind of come together in a diverse team and use that to our strength to figure out what could be at play. No, honestly, thank you so much, Amy and Kirsten. This has been a fantastic talk, and again, I think I speak for a lot of people in the chat right now. It's really nice to hear from other neurodivergent folks who are just working in really fantastic ways to make sure that like the diversity within our community is reflected in the design of interventions to support everyone. So thank you for all of your incredible work at Uncommon, and thank you for sharing your work and your practices at Magnify this year. It's been really insightful and really, I think, just have a lot of hope that even if our generation, we're still working to kind of get the things that we need support with and to be seen for our beautiful complexities. It's like there's hope for our kids and the future generations will have it easier. So thank you for being a massive part of that, and yeah, just thank you so much.
Thank you.
been lovely to be here. Great to meet everyone, and hopefully we'll try and pop over to the Slack. I confess I'm struggling to get on it, so I'll go and struggle some more now.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
we
We
will we will answer questions, but it may not be all today, but we will, you know, endeavour this week.
We understand. So no shame there. And thank you everyone for joining. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be back at 3:30 for Tahira's talk. If you want to continue the discussion, feel free to share your thoughts in the reflections channel on Slack. So yeah, we'll see you shortly. Have a good break.